Hello everyone and welcome back to What the Heck Math. Today I'm going to give you some tips on how you teachers out there, and I guess if you're not a teacher you can use this as well, but how you can make a self-grading quiz or test using Google Forms. Now this will be done online, so when your students are taking this, they will require some type of computer, phone, tablet, or something in order to connect to the internet to take this quiz, which means they will have access to the internet while they are taking this quiz. So it's something that you need to think about as far as how to either create the quiz to make it so it's okay if they use the internet, or it's really they won't even get the answer if they have access to the internet, or you have them take it during class and you just be really careful to watch to make sure they don't stray away from this page while they're taking the quiz or exam. But if you're able to make your quiz or exam in this form, it's great because it's self-grading. If you want, you can have them get their grade for their exam right after they submit it. You don't have to take it home and spend hours grading these exams, and you know it's going to be consistent. So it's a really good feature if you can alter your quiz or exam to make it so that it can fit this style. So let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is go to Google Forms. Now, as far as how to go to Google Forms, it's forms.google.com. You can open it from Google Docs. But either way, as long as you go to Google Forms, you're going to start and see this type of page. And the first thing you're going to do is just start a new form. Now there's templates you can use as well, but this is just the basic version of how to create a Google form. Now forms can be used for taking surveys and stuff like that as well, but if you tweak a few settings, you can also make it so that it becomes a quiz and works a little bit differently. Now if you're going to make a quiz or test, the first thing you want to do before you start entering any questions, once you have the form open, is go over to your settings up here. And then you see over here, quizzes. You need to make this a quiz, okay? Because when you make this a quiz, you can assign point values to the questions and then allow the auto grading feature. Now there are some other settings that you might want to tweak with. For example, when do you want the grade to be released? Do you want it to be released immediately after the student submits the quiz, or do you want it to be released later after you look at it? Also, do you want them to see missed questions? It's possible you don't want them to see that. Or maybe you don't want them to see the correct answers. You want to go over it to their face-to-face later on. Also, there's point values. Now, they actually have little question marks that you can hover over to see what each of these mean. Now, let's go to the next tab. So, presentation. You can show a little progress bar. Basically allows the student to see how much further they have left to go. It's up to you. It doesn't really affect the quiz at all. Shuffle question order might be something useful, especially if they're all taking it together in the same classroom. That way, if one of the students happens to peek over at their friend, they'll more than likely be on a completely different question than the one they're taking because the order is completely different. But you also might want the questions in that order, particularly for some reason, special reason. Show link to submit another response. This is probably something you don't want to have checked. This basically allows them to submit the quiz again. So I highly recommend that you uncheck this one. Now, a confirmation message, basically what do you want the message to show up after they submit the exam or submit the quiz? It defaults to your response has been recorded, but you can put something a little bit more personal in there as well. Now in general, this is kind of an important part. Now, you really have kind of two options here how you want to make sure this is a secure system, because you want to make sure the students can't submit more than one copy. You want to make sure they can't go back and change their answers, and you want to make sure that if they forget to put their name in or something like that, you know who it was that took that quiz. I had a friend of mine, a teacher friend of mine, who forgot to set this up, and so the first half of all the quizzes that were taken, there were no email addresses or names attached to any of them. So he had no idea who took which one. So you have two options here. One is collect email addresses. So this basically will automatically add a required question to your quiz that tells the person taking the quiz to put their email address in there. This one works pretty good, especially if not everybody has a Google account, but it's not as secure as just saying limit to 1 response, because what it does is it requires the student to sign into Google, and it keeps them from being able to submit multiple responses. And you'll also get information about who submitted it as well. Now, you definitely don't want to check respondents can edit after submit if you're making a quiz, because you don't want, especially if you show them the answers, you don't want them to go back and change their answer. And you probably don't want them to see summary charts and text responses. Basically, it shows what other students were answering. So essentially, in the settings, you want to make sure you have make this a quiz, choose when you want the grade to be released, and either limit to 1 response or collect email addresses, and then save. Then nothing really changes too much, except now it adds this total points and an answer key. Now, what you're going to do, you'll have your different types of questions that you do for normal Google Forms, but this time now you can have an answer key. So for example, if you want to add a problem like what is 2 plus 2, you go in and you add different answer options, 5, all of you add suggestions. Well, that's nice. It even adds, Google gets kind of smart, it can add suggestions for what kind of answer choices. And then you definitely want to click required. Now, required means they can't submit the quiz until they answer that question. If you want to allow them to skip problems and not answer it for some reason, then just don't require it. But after you make your problem, make your next question. What is 1 plus 1? And we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can make other types of questions. So I can, instead of multiple choice, I can make a short answer question. So what country are you from? And they have to type a short answer. Now, after you've made all your questions, you want to then go and edit your answer key. So what your answer key is going to do is, now you could also do this as you make a problem, it's up to you. But what you're going to have to do is choose how many points do you want this question to be worth. Now, completely up to you how you want to do it. If you just want it to be worth 1 point each, and so if there's 20 problems and they get 19 points, it means they got 19 out of 20. If you have 20 problems, you can put it as 5 points each, so then their grade will be out of 100. It's up to you. So I'm just going to put 5 for now. And then, now this looks a little bit differently, so what you're going to do is you're going to choose the right answer. So I'll choose 4. And so now it knows whenever a student selects an answer, which one should be right. And you go to same thing for the next one. So let's make it 5 points. What is 1 plus 1? 2. Okay. Next one, make it 5 points. Now, for a free response, it's a little bit differently. So basically, you have to allow for the fact that sometimes students might make a mistake in typing. Now, if you want them to type the exact right answer and you won't accept any other form, then it's really easy. But sometimes if you say, what country are you from? You could say America. But what if they typed United States of America? Well, if all you gave was America as the right answer, and they typed United States of America, they would technically get it wrong, even though it's right as well. Also, what if they didn't capitalize America? Or what if there was a spelling mistake? So basically what you're going to do here is you're going to type in all possible right answers that you would be willing to accept. And after you've done that, you can go down to mark all other answers incorrect. Now, one great thing about Google Forms, and I've actually had this happen to me, is if while the students are taking the exam, or after you look over it, you realize that one of your students actually answered a question correctly, but you made your answer key wrong. When you update your answer key, it'll automatically go and regrade that problem for all the other quizzes. So you don't have to go and do it. So it's a great feature. It really is useful, especially when you realize something in the middle of them taking a test that maybe your answer key was wrong. Okay, now You also, of course, you have all your other types of questions: date, time, checkbox, multiple choice, linear grid, so on and so forth. Now, with short answer, there is one other feature that sometimes is really useful, and that's response validation. Now, this gets kind of tricky and kind of confusing sometimes, but it could potentially make it easier for the student to make sure they give you not just the right answer, but the right answer in the right format. So what basically this does is it looks at their answer and makes sure that it fits some kind of criteria. Not just that the answer is correct, but that it's in the right format. For example, if you wanted them to give a number, the answer had to be a number greater than 5, then you could do this, and if they gave a number less than 5, then you could say your answer must be greater than 5. That error key or error message, will show up so that now they know what they have to do to change their answer. You could also text contains an email address, so make sure that the answer they're given is an email address or is an actual website URL for some reason if that's something that you need, or contains some word or some string. You can say, especially for like an essay, you can say the length maximum of a certain number of characters, or at least a certain number of characters. Now, where it gets really tricky is with regular expressions. This is kind of more of a programming aspect of validating responses, and I'm not really going to get into it. So if you want to learn about regular expressions, you can Google it. But it essentially allows it to make sure that that the student gives an answer in exactly the right format. For example, if you wanted the answer to be in this format, let's see. So like $, a number, a decimal, and 2 other numbers. You can create a regular expression to make sure that they give you this exact answer format, so that if they did this, they will get a message saying, hey, that's not right. You need to put your answer in this format. Now, if this is too confusing for you, especially with the regular expressions, one thing that you could do is edit the description. And in the description, what you could basically say is you can explain what format their answer must be in. And then, as long as they follow those instructions, hopefully they will give you the answer in the right format. Now, if they don't give you the answer in the right format, then maybe you should just count it wrong. Okay, so after you've created your answer key, made your quiz, then what you're going to do is you're going to send it to the students. Now, how you do this is up to you. You can email it to them individually. You can show a link, shorten link, and then share this with them, write it on the board, show it on the TV. However you would normally share a link with students. And then when they open the form, they would have to sign in if you set up the settings that way. And then you also embed it, but then they'll be able to take the quiz. Now, when they get the quiz, if you want to preview what it looks like, you can click this eyeball here, and it'll look like this. Okay? Now, it's not asking me to log in because it's just a preview, but then they would say, okay, I'll do that. What's 1 plus 1? 1 plus 1 is 3. What country are you from? I'm from Brazil. And so when you hit submit, apparently I added a pattern in there. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Maybe fix that pattern. Okay, so let's not do that. All right, let's try it again. Okay, so 5. 1 plus 1 is 2, and I am from Chile. So then I submit. Your response has been recorded. Now you also want to name your form too, so I can view my score. And then it says, okay, I got this one wrong. This is the correct answer. I got this one right. Got this one wrong. These are the acceptable correct answers. And then you'll automatically also get that. Oops, wrong one. See, now responses. I have one. So you can go to responses, and you can look at the summary. Oh, thank you. Got it. All right. So you can see the average score, median score, the range of all the scores. You can see the number of responses, so a nice histogram of the responses and the grades that were achieved. You can see how many students answered each problem, so it helps you to see which ones they struggle with. You can look at just particular answers and the answers that were given. You can look at individual student scores, grades. And yeah, so it's a really great feature. It does take a lot of time sometimes to make the quiz itself, but it saves you a whole lot of time on grading. And I've given it a final exam before with this type of format, and it was just amazing. As they were walking out the room, I'm already done with all my grading. All I gotta do is record the grades. So I hope this was useful for you, and I'll be giving other videos like this that would help teachers in their grading and keeping track of grades and whatnot. So please give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't, comment if you have any questions about anything that you would like to know more about, and thanks for watching.